Hello, it's been a while since I made a video. I know the light isn't ideal, it's flickering a little bit, but it's the best I have at the moment. I'm not fully into the game again, mostly just doing some PvP. And what kind of lifted my spirit again was the EUIC, which was a lot of fun. Didn't play on stream, but uh, day one and two went somewhat good. Regardless, not going to talk too much about that. What I do want to talk about is that I'm going to try and put like a weekly spotlight on a particular Pokemon out. And this we're gonna have like this Stunfisk Research Day on Sunday. I just wanted to showcase this particular Pokemon right here. The Unovian Stunfisk. We know the Galarian Stunfisk. A lot of people use it. It's a very meta Pokemon. It's really good. But its older brother, the Unovian Stunfisk, is actually pretty good as well. It's just as bulky. Its typing is quite interesting. Covers a lot of the meta. But its defensive typing, it misses that steel typing, so it's not as strong in defensive. This is the Unovian Stunfisk that I have myself. As you can see, I run Mudshot as the fast move. The other option is Thunder Shock. Its charge moves are Discharge, Mud Bomb, and Muddy Water. But Muddy Water you don't want to run. It's a very weak water move. Doesn't have the same type of attack bonus, so it hits even less hard. Yeah, it does have a small chance to debuff, but it just hits way soft. Let's take a look at the typings here. So basically, Unovian Stunfisk can hit about 7 typings for super effective, which is pretty big. On the other hand, though, it does take super effective from 4 typings. Um, well, the thing is about Unovian Stunfisk, because its moveset does hit too hard, it's spammy, but it doesn't hit too hard. It basically loses to Pokemon like Azuro, or the matchup just isn't too great. And also, depending on the fast move, you're better against either flyers or waters. You can't be too strong against both, unfortunately. I like Mucho a little bit more because it covers a few more typings. We can actually take a look at that as well here. As you can see on the left side, you hit Bug, Water, and Flyer typings. Just a bit better with Thundershock over Mudshot on the right side. But Mudshot on the right side takes about the hits better on 6 typings. The ground isn't double resisted here, so you hit a little bit better on that. You also hit Dragon a little bit better, but usually the Dragon is Altaria that you're facing if you're even using a Unovian Stunfisk. So that doesn't really count as much. So for this reason, I prefer Mudshot just because it covers types a little bit better. But depending on what you want to target, if you want to target Noctowl better, Thundershock is the way to go. Now, if we take a look at like the top meta, I took like I think 7 Pokemon here from the top meta that we see usually. We have Medicham, Registeel, Noctowl, Galarian Stunfisk, Alolan Ninetales, Trevenant, and Lantern. Those I think are some of the most common Pokemon. There are many more like Swampert and Sableye, but I just took these for the simplicity of it. So basically, Stunfisk doesn't do too well in his neutral matchups, and its defensive typing just isn't great in the current meta because it takes super effective damage from water and ice. It's all over the place. Like even in Medicham's Ice Punch, which makes the matchup not too great. I put neutral. That is if it does have Ice Punch, but even without Ice Punch, Medicham still has a slightly positive matchup there. Registeel actually is a good matchup. However, if Registeel has 2 lock-ons advantage, it loses the matchup by about 2 HP or something, but that would mean that if you let that second Focus Plus go, it can shield and lock on you down. So while it is a positive matchup, it's a little bit annoying on the safe switch. Noctowl is also a decent matchup, but a very close one actually. When you have Mudshot in the 1s and the 0, and then the 2 shields, because Shadow Ball just adds up. You think that Unovian Stunfisk might do better than Galarian Stunfisk here because it has that same type of attack bonus on the discharge, but the Mudshots just don't really help. And Galarian Stunfisk is somewhat of a neutral matchup. However, what you see here is that Earthquake is just a way better move, and that in the 0s and the 2s, Galarian Stunfisk just wins easily. On top of that, I think if Galarian Stunfisk baits twice, it also wins the 2 shields there, so it's also a little bit of an inconsistent matchup. Obviously, if you know Shield Rock Slide, that'd be great because it's resisted. But yeah, it's an iffy matchup. I think moreover on Galarian Stunfisk's side because it has to build to way more energy. Alolan Ninetales I think speaks for itself. A really bad matchup. However, if it runs Charm, the they're actually pretty close matchups. They're still losses, but really close losses. Um, on top of that, there's another Pokemon in the meta that's even worse. That is Trevenant. A grass type walls the Unovian Stunfisk, which makes Trevenant one of the worst for it to face. And the last one is Lantern. Now, Lantern runs both Spark and often Water Gun. Spark is a pretty decent matchup for Unovian Stunfisk, simply because two Surge barely don't take it out. We know this from the Galarian Stunfisk matchup as well. And then against Water Gun, it's not too great. However, you do win the two shields just straight Mud Bomb there. So this is a little bit how Unovian Stunfisk does against the meta. Now, let's take a look at how it does in battle here. I recorded a few battles, not too many. Let's take a look here. I've here the matchup that I want to highlight is against Registeel. So the team I'm running here is Shadow Sableye, Alolan Ninetales, and Unovian Stunfisk, and I actually answer a Registeel Say Switch with my Unovian Stunfisk. Since I already did like one or two Shadow Claws, he has over those two lock-on advantage, so it will outpace to that decisive focus blast that can actually flip this matchup. Which means I'm actually gonna have to shield to keep the switch advantage here, because you see I'm already into the yellow. I didn't throw my Mud Bomb there yet, which was not too smart, but I think this will barely take me out, or I might not be able to throw my two Mud Bombs there. I also don't want to lose switch advantage per se, even though my Alolan Ninetales in the back isn't per se bad against Trevenant. It is a charm Alolan Ninetales though. I believe this was a Show 6 Pick 3 matchup. I played both Go Battle League and Show 6 with this. And I just hard swap. I don't want the Trevenant to get too much farm, because that will mean it just Shadow Balls my Sableye twice and I'm like helpless in the back. So I just switch out. And there is that Lantern, Spark Lantern, which is alright to deal with. Thunderbolt, it's kind of hurt and it can farm me down actually. So at this point, I'm not per se in a bad spot if they let this go, which they do. It's actually great. I can just basically win this on farm, on fast move damage actually. Now, one problem though, this Trevenant can get to a Sea Bomb and a Shadow Ball, so I might have to make a catch or a call here. Look at those Shadow Charms adding up here. My opponent is one of a Shadow Ball at this point, so let's see. I unfortunately shield the bait. I'm trying to catch a move here, but unsuccessful. My opponent calls it, and that way they can now just farm up more energy. And I should have thrown a charm regardless, because even if they did a Shadow Claw, then they would have taken the charm damage, and as you can see, the Trevenant would have been so low. Maybe the Mudshots just would have taken it out, but other than that, Unovian Stuff is just plain bad in that matchup. As you can see on the right side, you see that usually Stunfisk wins quite solid, but if it has two lock-ons advantage, if the red shield has two lock-ons advantage, as you see on the lower matchup, the zero shields is actually really close to 500, and 500 means a draw. Let's take a look at the next one I have to showcase, which is against an Obstagoon. Not too common, but I think this one really showcases how Stunfisk is in neutral matchups. This is a terrible lead. Lickitung into Noctowl. Gonna say switch that Unovian Stunfisk. I already have like 4 Mudshots advantage here. The matchup I have on the right side is basically just from even energy. And I'm gonna go straight Mud Bomb here, because I think I need 3 charge moves regardless, whether I throw Discharge or Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb is 5 energy less, so that means I need 5 Mudshots and then 4. It just alters every time like that, so it's just a little bit cheaper. Gonna go for another Mud Bomb here. And as you can see, that these actually start to add up. My fast move damage is very little. Mud Bomb is not the strongest move, but on the other hand, I just get there so fast. And since the Unovian stuff is actually quite bulky, it does also take super effective damage from those counters. It actually gets to this Mud Bomb quite comfortably. My opponent does decide to shield there, and this Mud Bomb might actually take them out if they no-shield this. That it barely does. Obstagoon hangs on by 1 HP, which is very unfortunate. At least I can flip this, but I think this is terrible for me, because Shadow, Alolan Charm, Shadow, Alolan Ninetales with Charm is not that great against Noctowl, unfortunately. You actually only win the 0 shields, you lose all other evens. So at this point, it kind of looks difficult anyway. I'm expecting something like a Galarian Stunfisk in the back, which would be kind of unfortunate, because that team would have been very weak against my Unovian Stunfisk if it was in the lead. It's actually a Lantern, and my opponent makes a very good catch here, which might even win them this battle. This is a Spark Lantern, and at this point, my Lickitung is not even that great against anymore. My opponent's Noctowl is not even in body slam range, so even if I were to come out with a move here, it's not too great. Lickitung isn't even that strong in this matchup, to be honest. As you can see, the Thunderbolt, 2 Thunderbolts with Sparks are going to get me really low here. In fact, I believe that in multiple shield scenarios, Lantern wins this matchup, even despite taking super effective damage from Power Whip. Now my opponent, a very good player from India, knows that he needs 2 serves here to take me out and actually gets there just before I get that farm down. I needed the farm down there, but even then I also need to get 2 body slams off because you can see this Noctowl is already at those at the Sky Attack that takes out my Alolan Ninetales here. So that's a good game. But there you really see the power of the Unovian Stunfisk in neutral matchups. Let's take a look at the positive matchup here. We have here the Noctowl matchup. And this is, I believe, with Mudshot on even energy. So let's take a look here. My opponent is running really weak to the Sableye. I believe they had a Medicham in the back, so naturally they're going to stay in here. But as you can see, that Troutman is almost down already because Shadow Sableye hits so hard. And then they proceed to switch into the Noctowl. I swap a little bit late, building to 2 foul plays because I want to... want to build up some energy before swapping out. This is a decent matchup regardless. And now, as you can see, Muchos, they do nothing. But on the other hand, the discharges will add up here. Unfortunately, my Sableye also didn't have any fast move pressure because the best way to deal with a Noctowl safe switch when your answer is Galarian Stunfisk, or in this case Unovian Stunfisk, is to deal a little bit of damage, like 4 or 5 counters or something from a Medicham, for example. So then you can actually take it out with 2 charge moves, because as you can see now I have to throw 3. And they actually do decide to shield that. They want to keep that Noctowl and the energy, but I'm not falling for that. I'm just going to take out this Trevenant right away. They actually shield that, but since I built up so much energy, I can just throw back to back. And at this point, my opponent's Medicham is just food for my Shadow Sableye. They can bring in the Noctowl if they want. I still have a shield. It doesn't really matter. I think this Ice Punch actually doesn't even take me out. It's a Power Punch, however. My Sableye is very excel. It's about it's a level 50. It's a rank 9, so it can take that Ice Punch just a little bit better. The foul play takes out there, and I have another foul play, and it wins me this battle. So good Stunfisk showcase, but also good Sableye showcase there. Now we're going to take a look at a pretty bad matchup here for Stunfisk. As you can see on the right side, against Medicham, you don't do very well. In this matchup, we see Shadow Sableye against Galarian Stunfisk, shiny Galarian Stunfisk in the lead, which will also be shiny Sunday, by the way. And this is actually a very decent matchup for Shadow Sableye if you shield at least 1 Earthquake, or you call 1 Rock Slide. My opponent based me successfully here. I didn't think they would bait that, but they did. And look at how much damage that does. It's just... I actually really like this matchup as Shadow Sableye. If you can call the move correctly, the Rock Slide or the Earthquake, this goes so far into your favor that at some point you can farm down this Galarian Stunfisk. You might have to double shield though. Come out with so much energy and so much HP, which is pretty big. But yeah, the Sableye later seems to be pretty important for me. I actually didn't want to use shields here at all, but I got in a pretty nasty position by shielding 2 baits here, because I figured that my Shadow Alolan Ninetales should be very strong in the back. I actually charmed this thing down. Let's see what comes in. It is a Noctowl, which is interesting. This makes me think that there's a Medicham in the back, trying to catch a Sky Attack here unsuccessfully, and there is that Medicham. I still have some play here, but it's not easy. I have the Weather Ball, which will do decent damage on the Noctowl, but it won't KO it from where it is right now. Actually gonna go for Discharge here. I did go straight Mud Bomb on the Obstacle earlier, but Medicham is a little bit bulkier, so I think I need 2 discharges, maybe 3 discharges. I don't think a Mud Bomb will even do it. I don't think a Discharge will even do it. At this point, my opponent does a move. Doesn't have Ice Punch, does have Dynamic Punch. As you can see, it still gets me so low. This is already my 3rd charge move. My opponent hasn't even thrown his 2nd yet. Let's see what I can do here. I'm gonna try to snipe him, but... I catch the charge move instead, and this is going to cost me the game because my opponent already has a move. And I actually predict them hard swapping here, but it doesn't matter because it's 1 KO the Noctowl, and my Stunfisk is too low to make work of that. If I didn't catch that move, probably would have won this game. So, yep, that sometimes happens. It looks very silly, but Yeah, what I want to showcase mostly here is that Unovian Stunfisk just doesn't do too well there. However, it does resist these wing attacks. I'm still at 1 HP, so is the Medicham, and I actually get a tie out of it. So it's not the worst, really. Stunfisk put in work. Stunfisk really put in work. So the next matchup that I want to showcase is against another electric type, which is Lantern. Now I've got two PV Poke Matrix here for you, which is the upper one against Spark Lantern and the lower one against Water Gun. Obviously, Spark is much better for Unovian stuff. As you can see, the 2 shields is a really hard win, but against Water Gun, not so much because you keep getting super effective fast move damage. However, you do outpace to the moves. I think you get to 4 Mud Bombs at the very end, which really helps because Water Gun is just way slower. Let's take a look at this matchup right here. We have my Stunfisk into the Lantern indeed, but the thing is, I don't really like this matchup as much just because I'm taking more damage. I'm gonna play it out a little bit though. With Water Gun Lantern usually comes Noctowl in the back, so that already makes me pretty scared. I like to use my Lickitung as a damage spawns as well. I'm gonna shield this first surf here because I know I lose the zeros here, and then build up a little bit more energy. Then throw my Mud Bomb. This doesn't KO yet, but I can Mud Shield down afterwards. My opponent does decide to respect it though, and then I decide to catch the move here. Maybe not too necessary, but on the other hand, I do want to take the damage here, not on my Stunfisk. My Stunfisk might be useful later again. I'm gonna throw body slams here. Obviously, this is a terrible matchup for Lickitung. I really miss the days where Lickitung really only had to fear Registeel, to be honest. It made it such a good neutral Pokemon. Fortunately, now Noctowl kind of walls this all the licks here. The body slams don't do enough. The wing attacks and sky attacks add up. So it makes it a little bit difficult to utilize. The good thing is, or actually, I'm not too sure about this. I might or might not be in Shadow Ball range on my Unovian Stunfisk. So I need to take out this Noctowl before it gets there. And I know that he's like 2 off at this point. Let's take a look. I'm gonna throw Discharge, and my opponent actually catches, which is a really, really good catch. Does it help them? We're about to find out. I have a Vigoroth in the back, which is one of the best generalists in the game because counter is a really strong move, and so is Body Slam as a charge attack. Noctowl, I believe, has a move. Let's see what's in the back. It is the Galarian Stunfisk, and I accidentally threw the Body Slam right away, expecting the Noctowl to come in and win the charge attack priority against it. But regardless, this is a decent matchup for Vigoroth. I need to make a call here. If they Rock Slide, I think I lose this because I'm almost, or I might be already in Earthquake range, which will do a lot of damage. At this point, my counts add up so much that I can just take it out with a Body Slam. This is perfectly fine. I know they're 1 off or so, and they actually decide to do this, which is fine for me. All I need to do is build up more energy, then I'm good because Sky Tech doesn't do even remotely enough damage. I don't know why I took another wing attack damage there. Definitely not necessary because I'm not going to get to a bulldoze regardless. And then I decide to catch this move because a Body Slam may not have taken them out, and they were at 100 energy. Then maybe they can get to an Earthquake later. Now they have to build up to 2 Rock Slides again. With the Mud Shot damage that I got in here, this Galarian Stunfisk now is in Body Slam range, so it helps a lot. Just like its Galarian counterpart, Unovian Stunfisk also resists Rock Slide, so that really helps. It has some resistances. I don't like its defensive typing too much, but it sometimes. In this case, the Altaria matchup here, because the Altaria matchup is also a little bit iffy. As you can see, you lose it with or without Thundershock. It doesn't really matter. Thundershock does make it a little bit more manageable, but it's not a great matchup for Unovian Stunfisk. This is also without baits, so Altaria going straight Moonblast, which is pretty expensive charge move, right? About 60 energy. But yeah, Altaria just it's quite bulky and takes these moves quite comfortably. I have not Alolan Ninetales in the back, so I kind of want to bait out the Steel type if there's one with my Lickitung. My opponent decides to throw Moonblast regardless. That's perfectly fine for me because I do bait out the Galarian Stunfisk. This was a show 6 pick 3 battle, so I know this is the one Steel type that they had. Worst case scenario is something like a Lantern in the back. Perfectly fine for me. I will survive an Earthquake from here if this is one. It is. Because my Lickitung, I believe, is the best rate IV Lickitung there is. Spower Whip will do some damage, won't KO. I think I had a move And the thing about Unovian Stunfisk is it has the exact same stats as the Galarian one, so I might win or lose CMP. Usually Unovian loses CMP because it generally has worse IVs than Galarian Stunfisk that mostly is obtained through X. I call the first move hit actually a Rock Slide. I may have also survived Earthquake barely from there, but I just want to keep 2 shields for all of the Ninetales as well. They actually they actually baited me though, which was incredible. And now I'm going to take this Earthquake. I don't mind. It's actually a genius play for my opponent because I did actually not expect him to get the 2 moves there. My opponent indeed does have the Lantern in the back, but I think Shadow Alolan Ninetales can just use 2 shields and charm all the way through it. Gonna throw the resistant weather ball. My opponent knows they have to respect that because Altera is not gonna do it for them. They need more water gun damage there. Possibly water gun me down lower, Dragon Breath me down later because they do get like 3 more water guns in here. My shields are down right now, and now they might be able to get to a Sky Attack. I believe they had some energy on the Altera. It doesn't really matter because I already have the Ice Weather Ball here. This is double super effective and it should win me the game. The timer's also not up. The Galarian Storm is still alive, but the timer's not up, so it doesn't wins me this battle. Yeah, shows the power of charm. The last matchup is basically just a matchup to showcase the strength of Unovian Stunfisk. Basically, its strength is really in its offensive typing and its bulk. You can see on the right side, it's quite bulky. I mean, it's the same stat as the Galarian Stunfisk. It's bulkier than Pokemon like Noctowl and Lantern. Not as bulky as Pokemon like Lickitung and Azumarill. So basically in between that, my opponent is so far hard countering me. There doesn't seem to be a lot of place for Stunfisk because I cannot bring it into this really. And do I get to 2 foul plays? I actually get to 2 foul plays. I believe this barely shouldn't take out the Alolan Ninetales, but Shadow Sableye, XL Shadow Sableye is not the worst hit. Look at this. I'm 1 shoot up. They have very little HP. They actually throw a move immediately. I think it's a Weather Ball anyway. Yeah, I lick it down. Let's see what's in the back. That's a Registeel, which is terrible for me. But now, Unovian Stunfisk has a shield up. And this might be able to do it. You can see discharge coming through here. I didn't get a lot of false move damage on this, unfortunately. I'm going to shield this Ice Punch, which is probably not a smart play because the Focus Blast does more. I'm going to go for a Mud Bomb here. I think 2 Mud Bombs should take out this Medicham with the Mud Shot, so that's just a little bit cheaper. I might get to that move just 1 Mud Shot earlier, which I might need. Going for another Mud Bomb here. I believe the opponent has to shield this, otherwise their Registeel will be aligned to this, and that would be terrible for them. I'm gonna go back in the Lickitung because this might give my Unovian Stunfisk some momentum later. If they take me out right here with the Registeel, then I come back in with Unovian Stunfisk. I get almost no false move damage, and I'm able to build up more energy, which I need because I need to come out with a move against the Medicham as well. So basically, this switch in, even though I know they come in with the Registeel anyway, gives me a little bit of momentum. I throw the Focus Blast here, which will take me out. Zapcan would not have taken me out, and now I can actually build up more energy. Mud Bomb should do about 40% here. It doesn't do too much because Registeel is bulky, but it might just barely be enough with Mud Shots here. Gonna build 2 moves. Now I need to be aware the timer's almost off, so I don't want to take any counter damage here at all. I'm waiting half a second. They actually go in with the Medicham. We see the counter come through. I don't believe it's registered though. We'll take it out, and then I should be able to Mudshot down this Registeel. So that's a really well played game there that looked pretty unwinnable. So to finish it off, I just want to give the Unovian Stunfisk a rating. Should you get it? I think you should. I think it's a pretty good Pokemon. Probably not in the current hard meta, but like in restricted formats, this can be a really, really tough Pokemon. I think its offensive typing of Electric and Ground, it's super effective on so many Pokemon in the current meta. Obviously, Nidoqueen is gone, so we don't really hit that anymore. But there's still Pokemon like Lantern, Galarian Stunfisk, and Noctowl. Those are 3 big Pokemon in the current meta. Defensive typing, in my opinion, is terrible because water, ice, offensive is all over the place, and you're hard walled by grass type. So you need to cover Trevenant really, really well. You need to cover Trevenant, Alolan Ninetales, and something like a Swampert really hard. There's not a there. I'm not sure if there's any Pokemon that does it really well. I think Obstagoon comes like the closest. Maybe something like a Walrein as well. But so I think the bulk is great, incredible. That's like a comparables. It has the same stats as Galarian Stunfisk. Basically, it's just better stat distribution than Dunsparce, Noctowl, Lantern, three pretty well-known bulky Pokemon. Not as bulky, however, as Lickitung and Zoomer Ridge do. I think it deserves a B rating here just because of these stats. I think the offensive stats and the bulk makes it really well. It just really misses the defensive typing in the current hard meta just because there's almost no fire types to aim for. Basically, only Shadow Charizard. That's only a niche pick. There's some Noctowl you can target. Yeah, there's just not a lot. Some steel types as well, but even Galarian Stunfisk is so-so, and Registeel with Energy Advantage also very so-so. I hope you like this video. I'm going to try to do these kind of videos every week or so. I'm also going to try to put out other content, such as a Master League tournament, factions, maybe some GBL. We'll see. Hope you like the video and have a good one.